Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Kevin Steinhauser, and I'm glad you're here tonight. We're going to be looking at kind of is exactly what we need to be looking at based on the new news that this year's 2020 exam for AP Language will be rhetorical analysis. So I'm sure you have some thoughts and opinions about that. Some people love rhetorical analysis. Some people have been working towards it all year. Some people are like, oh, anything but rhetorical analysis. But the good news is we've still got over a month to go before this exam. We can zero in every single day that we practice on one thing and one thing only when you're actually prepping for this exam, and it's rhetorical analysis. This is a very passable essay. Even if it's not your favorite, I know you can do well on it. So a couple quick logistics here before we get rocking with our slides tonight. If you have a question, if you want me to slow down, there's an Ask a Question tab or button that you can click on. I will make sure before we leave tonight that every single person's question is answered. So please utilize that. That's the main reason why I'm here, is to answer your questions. I won't really be monitoring the chat, but feel free to use that as well. What I will make sure I look at, again, is the Ask a Question tab. All right, so I'm going to just start to launch in. But again, if you have any questions or just, hey, slow down, explain that again, please let me know. I am literally here to make sure you feel really good about this rhetorical analysis essay. By the way, this is part one of a two-part series I'm doing in response to our new essay topic. So I hope all of you can come back next Monday, spread the word, get your students to come, get your peers, your classmates to come on here as well. Have them look at the replay for this one if they're not able to look at it tonight. Next week's will be useful if you're here or not tonight, but obviously the ideal is you look at this slide, this presentation, this live stream tonight, and then again next Monday. So we're looking at how to raise your evidence and commentary score today and then a week from today at this exact same time. All right, so quick overview of what to expect on our stream tonight. I'll take a couple minutes just to make sure, if you haven't already heard, you hear it from a very legitimate source, Fiveable here, what exactly to expect on the 2020 exam for AP Language in light of the changes that were just announced. Second, we'll do a quick overview of rhetorical analysis basics, just to make sure we're in the right headspace for the rest of the event tonight. And then the bulk of our stream will be looking at an AP Language type of essay, or it's actually a speech that we'll be looking at. And I'm not going to model any writing tonight. I'm just going to make sure we're thinking the most important thoughts as we're reading. So I'll kind of give you some commentary of my own as we're reading this AP level speech tonight. Again, feel free to jump in with any questions you have, and at the end, I will just stay on as long as necessary to answer your questions. So please make sure you do ask these questions. I'm actually getting a couple in, it looks like. So before we really launch into the 2020 exam updates, let me grab these questions for you. All right, Anna asks, how can we reference a sentence or phrase from the passage? Great question. No matter where or how you are citing, it could be a paraphrase or it could be a direct quote, you really just have to say, this is from the speech. So we're going to look at a speech from Ronald Reagan tonight. You'll see, well, you won't see my writing, but you'll hear me say, Reagan says blank, or Reagan is doing blank. That's all you need to do. You don't have to cite line numbers or paragraph numbers. College Board knows that that is not the best use of your time during a timed writing, and it's unnecessary. So as we're reading this, I am an AP reader, and I've read rhetorical analysis the most out of all three essay types. I've done that several years. We literally grade with your essay up and Ronald Reagan's speech up, or whatever you're analyzing. So we know the passage inside and out. Don't feel like it really doesn't help you to say in paragraph 1, line 5. Now, you can absolutely say towards the beginning or in his first paragraph, but it's only if it's useful to your point. And I'm going to talk a lot more about analyzing from beginning, middle to end next week. So I hope you can come back for like the why you would do that. But in terms of requirements, you absolutely do not need to cite a specific line just for citation purposes. And one more question, which let me go to my next slide, and this question will tie in perfectly to that. So 2020 exam updates. The test date is Wednesday, May 20th. It's exactly 1 week later than originally scheduled. So pretty much the least invasive plan possible to what we were planning for all year. It is 45 minutes. It's a rhetorical analysis essay. It's online and it's at home. College Board's language says unless your school is in session. I think they're assuming the vast majority of students will be taking this at home. You'll be using your own personal device. It could be a cell phone, an iPad, or another tablet, a laptop, a desktop computer. One big thing here is that you can only use one device. So I actually want to talk about this for a minute and then I'll get back to the question. You can only use one device. You may type or handwrite your essay. This is actually a really big decision. So if you're a faster typer and you have a laptop, maybe that makes sense. If you're a pretty slow typer and you're much quicker at handwriting, I recommend just still handwriting. You'll take a picture of your essay and you'll upload it. So do whatever you know your strength is going to be. Don't let this new format freak you out and say, oh my God, I have to type now. Nope, College Board knows that some people would prefer to handwrite. They are letting you do that. One quick note though, there are pros and cons. This is a rhetorical analysis essay. You can't, as far as I know, and we're going to learn more about the logistics soon, hopefully, but they haven't come out with all of the details yet. But you can't, as far as I know, annotate the prompt. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope there's a feature in there, but at the end of the day, I highly recommend you take notes on a scrap sheet of paper, and that's kind of how you're going to be annotating. Those notes should be, hey, these are the overall writing strategies or choices that I see while reading this text. You're just taking notes as you go. Make it as easy as you can. So take notes as you go, so you don't have to go back and be, oh, wait, what was the first couple paragraphs about? Take notes as you go. After you read the prompt, figure out, okay, what are the 2 or 3 most important writing choices the author made, and then write your essay all about those. Now, what you can't do is use your, let's say, desktop computer, write your essay out, and then use your cell phone to snap a picture, because that's 2 devices now. So if you're going to use your cell phone to snap your picture, you're going to have to download it on your cell phone, or like test on your cell phone. College Board is going to be really strict about cheating this year. Teachers, for the first time ever, are going to receive a copy of your essays. And it is our job as teachers to report to College Board if there's any red flags on, hey, this doesn't look like my student's writing. It looks like somehow they're getting outside help. Do yourself a favor and just make sure this is authentically your work. Make sure you plan well in advance. Talk to your family. Hey guys, I need 45 minutes alone on Wednesday, May 20th at whatever time. Look on College Board, talk to your teachers. For me, I'm in the mountain time zone. I'm in Colorado. We're at 12 o'clock noon. That's when we test. So you can kind of look at your time zone based on that. With all of that said, make sure you're in a quiet space, no bathroom breaks, just like if you're in the real deal. You have 45 minutes to give it your best. Now, I can't wait for College Board to give us some more details. This is a great question, and in fact, it's the exact same question I have. I have not seen, I've been looking every day on College Board. I've been talking to AP teachers every day. I don't know the answer to this question yet. So if anybody knows more than me, things are changing so fast it wouldn't shock me. Please let me know in the chat, or you can just pop in a question and say, hey, this is actually an answer. But as far as I know, I do not know if the 5 extra minutes, because usually we have 40 minutes to do a rhetorical analysis essay. I don't know if the 5 extra minutes are to upload, or if it's 45 minutes and then they'll give us a few more minutes to upload. I do not know the answer to that. So I'm anxiously waiting to know. Brianna in the chat says 45 minutes and then more upload time. That was my understanding too. But I would like a really official answer. So Perla, I'm in the same boat. That's what I thought, but I haven't like fully verified it. But Brianna, I'll take your word for it. But honestly, like let's say, okay, this is what we think it is. Let's plan on 45 minutes to write, but let's not be shocked and disappointed if they come out with some more details and say, okay, you have 46 minutes and you have to upload in that time. I don't know the details yet. Now Luca's saying upload time is included. I've been hearing mixed things too. So let's just kind of hold off on that question until we get some more info. I'll be here next Monday, optimistically, at my part 2 of this raising your evidence and commentary score stream. I can answer that question. I agree with you. I wish College Board could clear that up as soon as possible. For now, guys, it's 5 minutes. It's not going to make or break our score. So let's move on, but obviously let's not forget that question. It's probably the number one question I have too, logistically. Let's just keep answering y'all's questions. Courtney, I see you in the chat. They did not change the rubric. So just for a refresher, the rubric, 1-point thesis. Make sure you get that. I'm not going to cover that tonight. There's other slides in the replay where I've done that. Other AP language streamers have done it. I just don't have time tonight. Make sure you're in your thesis point, just clearly stating what are the writing strategies that you're going to be discussing. Second, hold on, let me pause in the chat. College Board states students will be given 45 minutes to read and respond, and then 5 minutes to upload their response. Okay, that's what I was thinking too, so thank you for that. Let's say that's what we think it is, unless we hear anything else from College Board. So we have 45 minutes to write, and then we'll have some quick upload time. College Board is going to let you, by the way, practice uploading. I highly recommend doing that whenever they come out with that platform or those details. Don't let the logistics get in the way of your success here. So thank you for posting that in the chat. Okay, so rubric, 1 point of thesis, 4 points evidence and commentary. That's why I'm dedicating 2 slides here to that, or sorry, 2 weeks of live streams to that, because that's where you're going to either earn your college credit or not. You're going to get the thesis point. Then it's all about how far can I move up that 4-point scale to make sure I earn that college credit. My take, and this is an educated guess, is that you will want to earn a 3 out of 4 in evidence and commentary. So that's possible. That will earn you a 4 out of 6 for the essay score, because there's 1 point left, and that's the sophistication point. That is going to be very hard to get. I'm not going to talk about it tonight other than this, because it's not worth our time right now. Right now, what's worth our time is let's make sure we get 3s out of 4s on these evidence and commentary, because that is more doable. So sophistication, you can look at the rubrics. The rubrics haven't changed. They're on College Board's website. It's having a very nuanced, articulate argument that looks at the context of the work, and you just prove as a writer and as a thinker that you know your way around the speech or the essay. You fully understand the nuances, and you're talking about the absolute most important things. In addition, you're a very effective communicator through writing. So again, everyone probably says, yeah, I can do that. But from what I can tell, and I've been trained on this by College Board, or by College Board and by some people who are like College Board presenters and trainers, sophistication is going to be a very hard point to earn. So don't lose any sleep over that point. Do lose sleep. Okay, don't lose any sleep. But do focus and stress about how can I raise my evidence and commentary score. Hey, I don't mean stress in a bad way. Like, there's a lot of unhealthy stress going on with all of us at times that we have to monitor, especially the last few weeks. I'm saying stress about this in a healthy way. By that, I mean you're thinking about it. You're putting in practice. You're coming to 5able live streams. You're actually thinking about the most important things. That's all I mean by that. Okay, let's focus on a couple more questions here. Chris, this is a great question to kind of get us going. How can I write a rhetorical analysis essay? What rhetorical devices should I look for while I read the passage? Let me answer that in a nutshell, and then I'm going to practice with you all night here. But I love that you asked this from the beginning. So some of you I know have been with me all year and other AP language streamers. Some of you, this might be the first time with me, maybe on analysis anyway. What I say all the time is this is not a matching game. Nobody cares about the terminology when it comes to your AP readers. I've been an AP reader of rhetorical analysis. If I remember, it's been 3 different years, I think, was rhetorical analysis for me. I never once gave like a bonus point or said, oh my God, I'm so impressed. This student just used the word zeugma. What a fancy terminology they found. In fact, a lot of times the lowest scores are ones that where the student misunderstands the point of the task. And I'm going to get into that after these questions here. The point of the task is not, let's look for terminology. The point of the task is, let's figure out what choices this writer made to impact his or her audience. And I know that I'm oversimplifying it, but I'm doing that on purpose. That's really all this is about. So use your words. Don't use fancy words. I don't want you wasting any time studying terminology. And again, next week I think will be really helpful as part 2. I'm going to take this stream tonight and basically crank it up a notch next week when I say, let me show you how to walk through a passage beginning, middle to end in a really high level, college level thinking way. So in a nutshell, bear with me, Chris, tonight. If you have another question as I'm going through my model, go ahead and pop in another ask a question. But let me get to a few more of these. This one says, I'm not taking an AP Lang class. How do you recommend I self-study? I ordered a Barron's prep book. Yeah, to be honest, Barron's is fine. 5 Steps to 5 is fine. But the best thing that you can do is go on College Board's website. They have released every rhetorical analysis question from the last, 10 plus years, like more than 10 years. Just look at those and then come back to my stream next week at the minimum. Hey, come every Monday. I don't know if that's possible in your schedule, but this hands-on stuff is really valuable, I hope. And so like that's something that we can give you at Fiveable that Barron's is not, right? But then honestly, use the Barron's resource. Just look at rhetorical analysis just to maximize your study minutes. But what I would do even before that or while it's shipping, start looking at every single rhetorical analysis prompt that's been released the last 10 years. It's question 2 on every single exam of the last decade. When you do that, it's up to you all what's the best for you, but I would write something as practice for every prompt. Now I know if you're in a class, I have a class of AP language, we've practiced with a lot of those prompts. So skip the ones you've already seen if you want. But look at every single one that you can. Maybe just write your thesis and a body paragraph. Maybe just write, hey, this is what my outline is, and I'm going to move on. Whatever is the best practice for you, do something tangible. Produce something in writing with every single rhetorical analysis prompt. That's the best way to study. And obviously you can do that with Barron's or any other prep resource as well. But I would only look at those once you've exhausted College Board's free resources because they're the best. All right, these live streams will absolutely be recorded and uploaded. My job tonight is to upload these to the Fiveable website as soon as we're done here. So you can look at all of the replays for the entire year. I've done maybe 10 of them, and then there's other AP language teachers and even expert students as well. I've done lots of stuff on like model writing, so I'm not doing that today or next Monday. But seriously, go back and say like, hey, Steinhauser, that's me. He's posted a model body paragraph for rhetorical analysis on a past stream. Go check that out. I just can't do everything in an hour here tonight. But I would love for you to be able to go back and check those out. So yes, every single stream this year is on Fiveable's website. Now, to be honest, everybody, I can't keep up with all like the changes of the different types of pay structure of Fiveable. So I would just say, hey, go in, look at what's free, because there is plenty of free stuff on Fiveable right now. We've changed our paywall to give people as much free things as we can without running our business down. So if there's something you want to access that you can't, I know this sounds like a sales pitch, but I hope that the $5 or whatever it is to be a 500 Plus member for the next month is worth it to you to be able to look at all of the live streams that you might want to look at. Again, focusing in on rhetorical analysis for AP Lying. All right, should we have a list of rhetorical devices we understand beside us? Nope, doesn't matter. Nope. Like I said earlier, as a reader, we don't care what terms you have. So I'm going to show you kind of my thoughts tonight. I'm going to get started here in a minute. But don't even worry about that. You do not need to use fancy terminology at all. So in fact, change our mindset here. This is a good question, Perla. Don't even worry about rhetorical devices. I actually would rather have you, if you have rhetorical devices, stop studying them, because I don't want you going through on May 20th saying, oh my God, was that a Zeugma or a whatever? I keep picking on Zeugma today. What was the name of this rhetorical device? It doesn't matter. Tell me what the author did in your own words. That actually is better as I'm grading someone's work, because I know they're in control of the language and ideas. They're not just saying like, oh, let me go find a fancy term to match this up. Again, you can use terms, but with caution. Don't let that be the purpose of your response. All right, my last question before I get rolling here with my slides. What kinds of things should we look for when reading? That's a perfect question to get me going here. So if I'm saying don't look for devices, that's like the perfect follow-up question. So what you should be looking for is this. What would the audience be thinking when they hear, this is a speech, so when they hear these words? And let me stop that and let me jump into my slides and you'll see what I'm talking about as I model. I will be coming back to answer some questions, but let's kind of take a break from questions and get going here. Please don't stop asking questions. I will answer all of yours, even if it takes more than an hour here. Rhetorical analysis task, I've already sort of talked about this with the questions, but it's to identify and explain what is effective about someone else's argument. That's it. Notice it doesn't say identify and explain the fancy terms that are used or the rhetorical devices that are used. The language of the prompts have changed over the past 10 years. So I will add one caveat to the study plan that I just talked about. Go back, I think it was Perla, somebody in the chat said, hey, College Board actually has rhetorical analysis or questions since 1999. So that's 20 plus years of content here, or 20 years, I suppose. Look for the rhetorical analysis prompts, but don't let the language get in your way. Look at the language of rhetorical analysis of the last 2 to 3 years, because that's what they're going to continue to use. So it's going to say, analyze the writing choices that the author made to prove his or her point. The writing choices. We've moved away from calling them rhetorical devices to encourage teachers and students to say, okay, this is not about matching terms. This is not about matching fancy words, devices. It's about just thinking for myself. What is the author doing here? So I oversimplify it on purpose. When I ask my students, okay, stop, don't try to impress me, just tell me what's happening. What is the author doing deliberately? They do much better than when they try to impress me with terminology. All right, 3 things that I want you to think about as you are thinking about rhetorical analysis. 1, identify the primary purpose. You better not start writing. I tell my students this all the time, unless you can tell me this is the primary purpose of the text, because that's going to be part of your thesis statement. 2, identify the most important writing choices the writer makes. A big flaw in a lot of student essays is talking about a writing choice, but ignoring some of the most significant writing choices. So think about the most impactful writing choices. I'm going to talk about that more here in a minute. Finally, consider how these writing choices would impact the intended audience. I tell my students this all the time. Rhetorical analysis is way more about the audience than it is the speaker. I just want that to sink in. It's all about the audience, because the speaker speaking into a vacuum is meaningless. The speaker speaking to nobody is meaningless. You would never be looking at his or her work. The only reason the works that College Board selects are worth looking at is because there's an audience listening. And that audience is not just some blanket audience. The audience is different for every single speech or essay. So that brings us to this. This is probably day one AP language stuff. I'm going back to build this up. The rhetorical triangle is something I need you thinking about. Every single time you look at an AP language prompt, think about what's the subject, what's the speaker, and then we always get that. The part that so many people leave off is the most important ingredient here. Who is the audience? What type of people are in the audience, and what do they think? So the most important side of, or two sides of the triangle, are what do the audience think about the speaker, and what does the audience think about the subject? Here's the way I like to put it. You have to think before reading. So you know how there's going to be a paragraph, there's a little blurb to kind of contextualize the speech before you read it. Read that background info. Before you start reading the speech, think about what would the audience be thinking? Who's the audience? What do they think about the subject? So the audience to subject is more important actually than audience to speaker. The speaker, sometimes the audience will have strong opinions about the speaker, but really they're thinking about the subject before they even walk into the room where the speech is, or before they open up the newspaper and read the essay. What does the audience likely think about the subject? And then, how does the author carefully consider the audience's projected beliefs in order to do one of two things? Every single author or speaker is trying to do, I just basically put it down to these two things. They're going to do one or both of these. They're trying to reinforce a common belief with their audience, or they're trying to change the audience's mind. Now, there's times when the audience maybe has never viewed whatever the subject is as a problem. Maybe they've not thought about it too much before. That's audience-subject relationship. It's almost non-existent. So the speaker is going to do things to inform the audience about the subject before trying to change their mindset of why they should care about it. Maybe there's times when the audience and speaker generally believe the same things about the subject. Then the author's going to do some different things to try to just say, hey, let's stay strong. Let's keep these beliefs going. And then there could be times when the speaker and the audience do not agree on the subject. At that point, the audience is going to be listening, maybe skeptically, as the speaker tries to persuade them to change their minds. And obviously, there's going to be plenty of times when there's a mixed audience, when some would believe what the speaker believes and some wouldn't. And then you got to keep that in consideration as well. Okay, now we're going to be looking at our speech for the night. I'll be popping back and forth looking for questions, so slow me down if you want me to explain anything else. But I chose one that a lot of you are at least somewhat familiar with. I'm sure many of you have read this speech before. If not, no worries. But the title of the speech is Reagan's Address to the Nation. This is the day that the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded, killing American heroes, the astronauts who were on the space shuttle. This was January 28th, 1986. President Reagan is obviously the president at the time. In fact, he was supposed to address the nation that night for his annual State of the Union. He canceled that. This address is what he delivered instead. Now, so like what I just summarized would be what College Board would say in their top 3 sentences before you read his speech. Before you even look at Reagan's words, close your eyes, think for 10 seconds. What would the audience be thinking this night before tuning in to Reagan's speech? I tell you this, most Americans and a lot of global citizens heard this speech live. Millions tuned in. what would they have been thinking? So literally, I'm saying take 10 seconds to think. That's going to seem like an eternity when you're timed 45 minutes to write this essay, but it is 10 seconds worth taking. So this is what I'm thinking after I just take some time to think. First thought, the nation is absolutely in mourning. Many people, and again, the more background knowledge you have, the better this is going to go, which I get. Your background knowledge is different depending on the topics, but I know, and I'm sure many of you know, that this was a huge event. This Challenger launch was like a testament of American ingenuity and success. There were people in cafeterias, elementary school children, watching the launch happen to celebrate this awesome day that was about to occur. These kids, just like millions of Americans and people around the world, saw the tragedy live. Just think about that. They were literally having schools all across the country. We're just taking a break from learning to say, let's go in the cafeteria. We're going to roll in our TV cart. You might know what I'm talking about. And we're going to look on this little TV, this image of this space shuttle taking off. And then think about the aftermath. Think about what all of these countries around the world, and specifically America, were thinking about, and how they were emotionally dealing with the tragedy. They saw it live. What was supposed to be celebration turned tragic in seconds. Second, even more so than today, astronauts were American heroes in 1986. We're coming out of the Cold War. Space race was real. We, as Americans in 1986, put a lot of value in astronauts. We said, hey, these right up there with like our American hero athletes, astronauts are like the most patriotic you can get. They're amazing. So Americans loved astronauts, just amplifying the tragedy that they just witnessed. And then I got to think about President Reagan. He knows this. He knows that he's going to come in, and this is maybe the most important speech of his presidency, because he knows what Americans need. They're mourning. They're looking for reassurance. Basically, he needs to reassure them. He doesn't have to change their mindset. He needs to reinforce some beliefs. We are still Americans. Our country is still great. But I also have to affirm that this was a tragedy. And you'll see where he goes with this, because that is not simply all that he does. He kind of takes it further, and if you haven't seen the speech, you'll see that as we read this live. All right, before I start to read his speech, and you'll see how I have this set up, Brianna has a question. So is historical context important to include? What if we don't know much about the historical context? Good question. I'd say yes, it's important to include as much as you can, but don't freak out if you can't. That's like the best answer I can give for that. The students who score the sophistication point absolutely will have knowledge of historical context. That's why I said don't stress about the sophistication point, because it's not worth chasing after. You're either gonna be able to pull it off or you're not. Obviously, it's something you want to keep getting better at, learning more and more and more about the world. But the reality is, who knows what this year's prompt is going to be? So I can't say, hey, go prep this, yada yada yada. So all of that to be said, do the best you can. I have a replay that's posted that's about rhetorical analysis, introduction paragraphs. I've done a nice job saying, hey, this is how I would do an intro to provide some historical context. And then again, I think about it through this lens still. What would the audience be thinking? And I bet you can infer, even if you didn't know everything I just spewed off, that the country is in mourning and Reagan set out to reassuring them. That's probably your initial thought. By the way, that thought will be confirmed as we're reading. So to encourage you all, I think you got this. I think it's very possible to just take 10 seconds, have some initial thoughts. Your high-level readers, see if your high-level thoughts seem to be matching up with the text. Read the whole text, plan out what you're going to say before you start to write. All right, we got a really good question here. Again, I'm checking daily for updates. My understanding is that you may not use Google or any other um, help as you're writing this. So I know that College Board is like really going all out on what can, like, how can we make sure students don't cheat. I see Courtney says, can we use a dictionary? Like, same thoughts. My answer is no, unless we hear anything from College Board that says otherwise. I don't. Again, you all can correct me if I'm wrong. I've been checking up, but again, it's hard to keep up with the fast-moving changes here. My understanding is that you may not use any outside references at all: dictionary, thesaurus, Google, an old school encyclopedia, nothing. So unless we hear explicitly that that changes, let's go with absolutely nothing. Um, you know what, Courtney? It says, is it open notes? College Board. So I watched the CEO of College Board had this long hour-long thing for teachers earlier this week, and he said, "Hey, we are making this test so it can't be open, or sorry, so it can't benefit you if it's open note." Which I mean is kind of a weird thing to say because obviously for us it can't hurt to write down like, hey, here's my outline like plan. Don't forget thesis points X, Y, Z to say in them. So my understanding is that um, you can probably have notes out, but for rhetorical analysis, it's not going to help us a whole lot. What I do want to encourage us all is let's keep looking back. College Board keeps promising to come out with more information. So what I want to do is to say everything I say with the logistics like this is not the final word. Let's wait for more on College Board for them to be a little bit clearer on that. Because what Trevor Packard, the CEO of College Board, said, or I don't know what his title is, but the main dude for AP exams. That's my title for him. He said, open notes won't help students. So it seems like he knows that they can't enforce that. And that's kind of all I can speak on right now. So let's just say, hey, let's not plan on open notes. Yeah, thank you. Let's not plan on open notes, but let's just kind of roll with the punches here, everybody. What I do know is he's kind of right. Um, your skills that you're building all year, including this last month here, are what are going to make or break your score. Not like a little cheat sheet of like, hey, don't forget this. So let's just kind of wait and see on the more details of that. But I do know they're taking cheating very seriously, so I would always err on the caution of, if College Board doesn't explicitly say I can use X, don't even try to use X. All right, let's jump into, and I might not get through the whole speech tonight. What's more important is, and I will have these slides posted, by the way, in the replay, so you can always pull up my thoughts. But what's more important is just as you're reading through, jot down some notes and think high-level thoughts. So that's what I'm going to model for you here tonight as we dive into this speech. Again, my initial thoughts are Reagan knows the nation's in mourning. What's he going to do about it? I'll read the text on the left, that's Reagan, and then on the right are just my thoughts as a college level thinker. What should I be thinking about with rhetorical analysis? Notice that these are, you will not see on the right any fancy terminology. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, I found a hyperbole. What this is way more important than that. So just use sentences like the ones I've posted that could be turned into a topic sentence. So I'll talk a little bit at the end once we get a few paragraphs in on how to narrow down the most important writing choices. But first, let's get a few paragraphs in. Ladies and gentlemen, I planned to speak to you tonight to report on the State of the Union, but the events of earlier today have led me to change those plans. Today is a day for mourning and remembering. Again, whoever I was answering their question about historical context, these were my thoughts. The nation's in mourning. That's confirmed here. He wants to bring the country together. So first, analytical thought, and I would just be taking quick notes. They don't have to be this thorough. This is because I wanted my thoughts to be clear to everyone who's watching or reading my slides. Your thoughts should be like quick bullet points. So you might want to do, by the way, this is like new territory for annotating. Unless we hear clearly, you can interact and annotate on the prompt. Plan on having a sheet of paper out with annotations. Paragraph 1, boom, emphasizes the magnitude of the day's events. Meets the audience where they are. These are two things I'm noticing he does from the very beginning. Let's do another one. This is still the first paragraph. Nancy, his wife, Nancy and I are pained to the core by the tragedy of the shuttle Challenger. We know we share this pain with all of the people of our country. This is truly a national loss. So my analytical thoughts here. First, he brings the human element into his speech. He mentions his wife. He's not just talking to them as a president. He's talking to them as an American, someone who's married, someone who's mourning with his family. Like so many families are mourning together. Think about what I knew, and some of you knew. Children of all ages watched this tragedy happen live. They come home to their families. They're all processing this together. He's saying, hey, I'm mourning with my family too. He emphasizes that he has a lot in common with the audience, namely, this was a painful day and they are all feeling that pain. Let's do another one. 19 years ago, almost to the day, we lost 3 astronauts in a terrible accident on the ground. But we've never lost an astronaut in flight. We've never had a tragedy like this. So now Reagan is highlighting the uniqueness of the tragedy. These are just my words, they're not fancy terms, but these are the kind of things I want you doing. What is Reagan doing? Next week specifically, I'm going to talk more about, so I hope you all can come back next week on this exact same time for part 2. I'm going to talk more about how to not slip into the danger zone of summary, because that is the number one danger of rhetorical analysis, no matter your approach. So a quick preview of that is when you're writing your annotations, use verbs of what he does, not what he says. So you're not going to write down, for your annotations, a paraphrase here. You're not going to write down astronauts died or never lost an astronaut in flight before. You're going to use a verb, and this is where you're going to make sure you're not summarizing, of what Reagan does or how he does it, not what he says. He highlights the uniqueness of this tragedy. He's placed it in a little bit of historical context. There were astronaut deaths 19 years ago. Guys, that's a long time for like the whole space race to be occurring, and they're not having astronaut tragedies like this. This is a big deal. This is the first time an astronaut has died in the air, in flight. So Reagan continues, and perhaps we've forgotten the courage it took for the crew of the shuttle, but they, the Challenger 7, were aware of the dangers, but overcame them and did their jobs brilliantly. He's taken a moment to describe the astronauts as courageous heroes. We mourn 7 heroes, and then he actually takes time. I'm imagining like slow reading, pauses between each name for this individual impact to sink in. He names the 7 astronauts who died in the explosion. And then he says, we mourn their loss as a nation together. So my analytical thoughts here. Reagan encourages the audience to mourn with him as he slows down and says each name. Then he emphasizes the personal nature of this tragedy by saying, hey, these are not just American heroes. These are people. They have families. This is an absolute tragedy. Let me pause for some questions. Quickly, Daniela, this is a good question. Just a quick question logistically again. How many points on the rubric do we need to get at least a 3? College Board has not officially told us. I don't think they will. This is a new rubric. They're trying to figure it out. Unfortunately, it's kind of annoying, right? but I think they don't want to know until they see how the scores shake out. They're gonna honestly, I think they're gonna want to make sure that pass rates are pretty consistent from last year to this year, which our pass rate for AP language, and when I say pass rate, I mean a 3, 4, or 5 on the exam, is always hovering a little over 50%. So I don't have last year's memorized off the top of my head, but if you look at the last 5 years, they're like 52%, 54%, 56%. So a little more than half of the people get a 3, 4, or 5 who take this test. My assumption here is based on my very educated guess. Like, this is just a guess, but I have looked into this a lot. Talked to people from College Board who unofficially say this is what it looks like. Get your thesis point, get a 3 out of 4 on your evidence and commentary score. That should get you the qualifying score of a 3. So you need a 4 out of 6. Now, I don't know, like, that was all before when you're supposed to have 3 essays and a multiple choice portion to talk about as well. I haven't had any updated conversations that change that. I've had plenty of updated conversations, but they're being very secretive. In fact, I don't think they've decided yet, as crazy as that sounds. So with all that to be said, shoot for that. It will not be higher than that to get a 3. You will not have to get a 5 or a 6. So I'd say shoot for that. I think it's very possible. So that's the best answer I can give you on that one. All right, I kind of already answered this, but let me make sure we're clear on this one. What do you recommend for notes since we can't annotate? How could we keep track of quotes? Good question with the quotes. So I did say paragraph 1, and then all of my analytical thoughts on the right, you're doing as quickly as possible, not as thorough. You're doing bullet points. And you might want to just like write, and this is totally up to you, you personalize it. Write the first 2 words of the sentence you want to use. Or, because again, I've done live streams on how to embed quotes at a really high level. You're not just saying Reagan states sentence. You're pinpointing the most important words. So maybe just write the 2 to 4 words down that you're going to quote. But I would just do that. Strategy that I'm noticing, quick phrase that really indicates that strategy. Really good question. Maybe that's why they're giving us 5 more minutes, because honestly, this is going to take a little bit more time maybe. Again, I want to emphasize what I said at the very beginning logistically. If you are stronger at typing, if you're a quicker typer, plan on typing if you can, if you have the technology at home. If you're better at handwriting, just handwrite. All right, let me actually, I see a lot of really good questions in here. So let me do 2 more slides, and then I'm just going to end there and answer questions until we're done. So I want to show you 2 more slides just so I can talk a little bit more thoughtfully about this if it comes up during some Q&A time. Let me see. Okay, yeah, this is what I wanted you to see. Let's look at 2 more slides. So after Reagan, let's go back a second, emphasizes the personal tragedy and just says, hey, America, I am with you. This is terrible. We are all mourning. He shifts a little bit. He addresses the the astronauts' families. Let's read. For the families of the 7, we cannot bear as you do the full impact of this tragedy, but we feel the loss and we're thinking about you so very much. Here, speaks directly to the families. That's what I would write down. Speaks directly to the families. Let me do one more. Your loved ones, he's still talking directly to the families, were daring and brave. And they had that special grace, that special spirit that says, give me a challenge and I'll meet it with joy. They had a hunger to explore the universe and discover its truths. They wished to serve, and they did. They served all of us. So here he acknowledges that even though the mission failed, the astronauts succeeded in their service to their country. Now, I do want to show you something. Let's skip ahead a little bit. Right here. The primary purpose of this speech, certainly so far, has been, we are in this together, America, and it's just a time to mourn, and I mourn with you. Actually, let me find the right slide. Here. He shifts towards the end of his speech. So I skipped a little bit. And again, these slides will be posted. You can check out all my analytical thoughts. But let's read this paragraph. It's all part of taking a chance and expanding a man's horizons. The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave. The Challenger crew was pulling us into the future, and we'll continue to follow them. My analytical thoughts. He emphasizes the importance of pursuing space exploration, even in the face of this tragedy. And here's what Reagan does that a lot of people, even presidents, would not have done. Most people would say, hey, let me write the best speech I can to show that I'm in mourning. Let's unify the nation. But he doesn't just stop there. He does that first very intentionally. Remember, next week is about how to track the beginning, middle, and end of an argument effectively. I'm looking at it now thinking he had to first say, I'm in it with you together. Once he did that, he pushed a little bit. A lot of Americans might have been thinking, and this is an inference on my part, which is what you'll have to make on your rhetorical analysis reading. Hey, maybe we should stop this whole space exploration thing. Maybe it's not worth it. 7 people just died today. Why? Reagan says, hey guys, they signed up for this, as terrible as it is. They knew the dangers. That's what makes them heroes. There will be more heroes that come after them. We need to continue to pursue space exploration. So instead of just stopping at mourning, go back to my slide where it says the speaker tries to reinforce a belief or change a mindset. Here, he might be trying to change some mindsets that are wavering. Is space exploration worth it? He's gently saying, yes, it is, and we will not let this stop us. So I wanted to make sure we saw that. The best readers and the best writers are the same here. If you are a good reader, you're going to see that. This is a secondary purpose here, and that's going to be a big part of your essay. So let me talk for 1 minute before the Q&A about how to narrow down the things you're going to write about, because you're going to have more annotations or more things that you've noticed than what you've written. Then you'll have time to write about. There's 2 criteria for what's worth a body paragraph. And you'll write 2 or 3 body paragraphs depending on what you can do in the time. And I won't focus on that right now. But 2 body paragraphs that are great are better than 3 that are mediocre. So loosen up your expectations if you think you have to write 5 paragraphs. 2 body paragraphs are fine. Make sure they're great. Okay, with that said, there's 2 criteria. 1, look at your annotations again real quick once you've done them. If you keep seeing the same type of note, like mourning together, mourning together, mourning together, hey, it's worth talking about. That's easy. The second thing is a little bit more thinking. Put yourself in the audience's shoes. What would be the most impactful thing for them? For me, this slide would be one of the body paragraphs, because that's the second purpose here. He emphasizes the importance of pursuing space exploration, even in the face of this tragedy. In fact, that could be my second body paragraph's topic sentence. No joke. It's as easy as that. The words don't matter. The ideas matter. What I mean is, like, don't worry about, oh, I don't have a device there. This is the writing choice. What he's choosing to emphasize to prove his point. So his point is, hey, this was a tragedy. We're in this together. They were American heroes. We will never forget them. At the same time, we will not let this stop us from continuing space exploration. Okay. Unfortunately, I'm going to pause there. Let me throw up my final reminders as I am answering some Q&A. I've already talked about them, but you can see them. And then I will stay on as long as these questions are coming in. If you have questions, post them. If you need to take off, that is totally fine, understandable. We're hitting the hour mark here in about 5 minutes, but I will be hanging out to make sure everyone feels good about this. Please don't log off until you get your questions thrown in. If you have any, I want you feeling good about this, everybody. And again, next Monday, part 2. Hopefully tonight was useful. Hopefully next Monday will be just as useful, if not more, now that we got a lot of the logistics out of the way. Okay. Brianna asks, Should we analyze for general ethos, pathos, and logos? Or should we analyze for a specific purpose of each paragraph and relate it to literary elements? Let me kind of put it this way. You can do either one of those, but I'm going to say no. Like, don't go in saying, oh, I need to talk about ethos, pathos, and logos. Or I need to connect to literary elements. Go in with this mindset. Let me say it as clearly as I can, and let me know if this doesn't make sense, guys. Go in answering this question. What does the writer do to prove his or her point, or to impact his or her audience? So maybe that's he really talks about his ethos, really builds his own credibility. I'm going to tell you the truth though, and I know some teachers teach like, give me a body paragraph on ethos, give me a body paragraph on pathos, give me a body paragraph on logos. We don't want to see that formulaic thought. We don't want you to go in saying, I know I'm going to talk about repetition and syntax. I know I'm going to talk about ethos, pathos, logos, or whatever. We want you to adjust to the text. So again, fancy terms don't matter. Even ethos, pathos, logos are not super fancy, but I would consider those are fancy AP terms. Words that you never use outside of an English classroom. You don't need to use them. That doesn't impress us. What impresses us is you being flexible and answering the prompt. So, hey, what is the most important thing Reagan did? Talk about it. How would that have impacted the audience? That's what your analysis is. Again, I just wanted to make sure we were thinking about the most important things tonight. But I do have replays posted where I literally model. This is what a rhetorical analysis introduction paragraph looks like. This is what a rhetorical analysis body paragraph should look like. In my opinion, those are like must watches. And then you just practice from now until about a month. All right, Brianna, if that did not clarify your question, please shoot me another question. All right. Quick follow-up to Brianna's. Perla asks, I heard we aren't supposed to use ethos, pathos, and logos as our main points, but you seem to be doing that, just like in other words. What is your opinion? Yeah, so the reason why a lot of teachers say don't use ethos, pathos, logos is because we don't want to pigeonhole you, and we don't want to like create this formula of like, these are the things you have to talk about. You're absolutely allowed to talk about them. I like that you said like, hey, Steinhauser, you are doing this. You're just not calling them ethos, pathos, logos. Good point. You can use ethos, pathos, logos. It is a red flag, I will tell you, as an AP reader, if you have 3 body paragraphs, 1 of each, because I know that you were trained to do that no matter what. And I want you to respond to the text in front of you. So tonight, you probably all agree with me, pathos, like if you're not talking about emotion, somehow, you're missing the most important part of the first half of a speech. So yeah, I'm absolutely talking about pathos. Talking about ethos a little bit tonight, but I don't know if that would have made it into a body paragraph much. So my body paragraph would have been, here's what my 2 body paragraphs would have been. Body paragraph 1, I wouldn't have called it pathos because I'm just going to use my words. So Reagan starts his speech by joining the nation in mourning. And then my evidence would be how, yeah, he talks about he's trying to relate to them as a family versus Nancy and I would talk about that. I would just say, hey, we're all in this together, and these are the ways that Reagan proved that. My second one would be the second one I talked about, and I would just write 2 body paragraphs for time that I'm just going to make sure they're great. Would be, once Reagan has shown that the unity of the mourning nation, or however you want to word that, he then pushes the audience to not back down from future space exploration. Notice I said he pushes the audience. He knows that, hey, a lot of people might be second guessing it. And then I would just cite the evidence. We skimmed through. We didn't get like to all the evidence that I would use because we didn't finish the speech. But that would be how I would break down my body paragraphs. Good question. Again, if you want me to clarify anything, let me know. I'm going to keep on going. Pearl's got another question here. Okay, I saw you in the chat just pop up. So you would separate by idea, not ways he did it. Good question. And this is kind of a preview of my next week's slide. So if you notice, like he starts doing one thing and then he shifts to another thing. Yeah, I would absolutely talk about both of those. And then during my analysis, I'm going to talk about all the ways he does that effectively. So let me just break that down really quickly. Let's just go back to the one we looked at the most. So my topic sentence would be Ronald Reagan joins the nation in mourning and acknowledges the tragedy. However you want to word that. And then I would have like a multi-pronged attack in my body paragraph of the ways or the choices that he made to just effectively bring everyone together through mourning. So one of those ways would be, in order to, I use that phrase all the time, in order to connect with the audience, Ronald Reagan uses family language and shows that he's not just a president, but a member of a family. However you want to word that. Then another thing I would do is another way that he addresses tries to mourn together with the nation is he addresses the astronaut's family. And this is my analysis. He does that, and he's voicing what so many Americans are thinking. And this is all about the audience. So many Americans would be wanting to speak to the families. They wish that they could just do something. There is almost cathartic to hear the president speaking to the astronauts' families. It brings everyone together. It allows them to mourn more deeply, knowing that the astronauts' families know that they're thinking of them. That kind of thing. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, and then another question here, Perla, that I opened up. Does the way the speaker addresses the audience have to be used more than once for us to use it in the essay? No, good question. So again, there's two criteria for what's worth talking about. One, if you see it over and over again, yes, the author wants you to see that he or she did it over and over again, so use it. But the second one is more of like the critical thinking criteria. What or how would the audience respond? So choose the things that would be the most impactful for the audience. So if the speaker addresses the audience one time and you know that it's like one of the most important parts of the speech, you may absolutely write a body paragraph around that. All right, what do you suggest we do in order to develop our ability to identify the purposes and subtext the way that I did tonight? Honestly, it's practice, practice, practice. So kind of coming full circle here. The best way to do that is go to College Board's website until you've exhausted them, and then you can start supplementing with 5 steps to a 5, Barron's, etc. Look at as many rhetorical analysis prompts as you can. And by the way, it doesn't have to be an official prompt. It doesn't have to be Barron's. It could be, let me go to the 100 greatest speeches of all time. Right? It's any nonfiction text that is delivered to an audience. And then read it. Think about it the way we thought about it tonight. Literally, I mean, it just takes practice. So, but here's the number one question you're asking as you're practicing. And you'll get better at it as you just start to get these reps of practice in. What is the author doing? Who is the audience? Why is the author doing what he's doing? Because of who the audience is. You have to keep that connection alive. So really, that's all I was asking myself as I put these slides together. What is he doing? And I'm thinking, so how would the audience respond? And how the audience would respond, or what they would be thinking about, is the bulk of my analysis. All right. If we want to 4, should we prepare on how to get the sophistication point? Honestly, I said this pretty early on in the live stream. At this point, there's a month to go. I would not stress out about the sophistication point. There's really no way to prepare for it other than to prepare for the evidence and commentary anyway. Obviously, you want to become a better writer, so you want to, become better at grammar, use high-level word choice for your sentence structure. But the sophistication points will really be the ones that kind of did what I did tonight. I'm looking at the text in a nuanced way, and I'm bringing in my own knowledge in as I'm going. So honestly, if you apply and practice like I just said with the previous question, you are preparing for the sophistication point. I'm just saying, take that monkey off your back. Don't worry about the sophistication point. If it comes, it comes. To be completely honest, I think less than 8% of people who take this test will get it. Hey, if you get it, great. But let's be more realistic. Let's get the points that we should get. I think everyone should get a 3 in evidence and commentary. If you just kind of do what I'm coaching you through today and then again next Monday. So if you want to get a 4, get the thesis, get the 3 points on that 4-point scale of evidence and commentary. So that's why I've created these streams after hearing this is all about rhetorical analysis. I literally sat down like, okay, what are the 2 Mondays in a row that would be the most beneficial to prepare? And it's just like thoughts of how to read these things well and how to prioritize like the task. So come back next Monday. We'll make sure that you all get the 1, 3, 0, 1 thesis, 3 evidence commentary out of 4, 0 sophistication. I don't care about that score. Most of my students aren't going to get it because most students in the country are not going to get it. But I know most of my students can get that 3 or 4 on evidence and commentary. Again, guys, if I just can't do everything in 2 Mondays, but hopefully you can go check out my replays where I do model a body paragraph for you. Do we have to use quotes or can we just paraphrase? Great question. You do not have to cite like line 10. I'll talk next week more about why you might want to say in the first paragraph or in the first part of his essay or speech, but you don't have to cite. You can paraphrase or quote. Either way is just fine. My recommendation is a blend of the two. So in a nutshell, just so I can get to all these questions, that's the answer. My recommendation, just because it's a little bit higher level of a writing thing to do, is blend, use some paraphrase, some quote. Okay, Brianna, back to the first question that I answered after my slides. You say, I understand a little bit more. So could I say that Reagan, appeals to the audience's emotions through blank? Yes, that would be great. So again, the more that you're just using your words and you're fluid and flexible to the prompt, the better. But yeah, literary elements and terms don't have a problem. What I'm saying is this: don't misunderstand the task. Don't try to fit, what is that that you always hear people say, a square peg in a round hole. Just tell me what you hear or what you see. So don't limit yourself to literary elements. Like I said, let me go back a slide. This would be my second topic sentence. Let me find it. He emphasizes the importance of pursuing space exploration, even in the face of tragedy. Now, there's many ways to write your topic sentences. The main thing is make sure your strategy or your writing choice that you are discussing is clear. Don't think that you have. You can, but don't think that you have to include a literary term. Okay. Thanks for the questions, guys. I'm still hanging out again until all your questions are answered. Is it better to separate by idea, or can we still separate by the way the author does it? Yep, either way. I'd say just think about it this way. Practice, practice, practice. Like the best way to practice actually is look at the prompt and then here is what I would talk about. Here are the most important writing choices. The reason why that's the best, you can write the best body paragraph of your life, but if it's not working together with the first one, or if it's not on one of the most important things, it's gonna hold you back a little bit. So obviously writing well and writing about the audience and your analysis is very important, but don't underestimate just outlining and figuring out like what's the best flow to your paper. So you do have some options here. So yeah, you could separate by idea, or you can go like beginning, middle to end, which is what I'm going to show you next week. How much time should we take before writing our essay, given the time limit? Yeah, here's what I recommend. Take approximately 10 minutes to read and annotate, and then take approximately 2 to 5 minutes to plan and outline. And I know that seems like a long time, but I'm telling you, that is time well spent. I do not want anyone starting until you know your first and second body paragraph topics. Don't be like, oh, I'm going to start and I'll write myself into it. My students tell me that all the time, and I'm like, no, stop. Because you want your first body paragraph to work in conjunction with your second. It's not going to happen by magic very often. I mean, it's true. Sometimes people write themselves into beauty. Most of the times, their first body paragraph is pretty good because they thought about it, and their second one sucks. If you don't know what you're going to say, it's often not going to turn out well. So with that said, invest the time in up front. Again, about 10 minutes to read well, annotating as you go, and then 2 to 5 minutes, depending on how long it takes you to put your thoughts together. You should know what quotes you're going to use. You should know when you're going to use them and what you're going to say about them, all before you start. I know that doesn't sound like a whole lot of time, like less than 30 minutes to actually sit there and write, but you're going to write so much faster and more effectively if you take that time up front to plan. All right, will we know what we get since our teachers will have our test back? I'm assuming that says when. I don't have any information on that. Usually test scores come out in July. It might be pushed back a little bit just because of all the changes that are happening logistically. My expectation is still at some point July or August this year, you'll have your results. I don't know if teachers will get your essays back before the results, but my assumption here is that, so we have College Board accounts, we log in and we see all of your scores the day that they're released. My assumption is there'll be like a PDF of all of your essays that day. We probably won't have early access to them. Oh, will we know what specific points we get though? Yes. So you will have your rubric broken down. So you'll know you got like a 130 or a 120 or a 140 or a 141. Yeah, you'll know that. Are your previous streams available on Fiveable for free? Chris, unfortunately, I just don't know all of the paywall structure that has been changed in the last couple of weeks. So log in, just go to AP Language. You'll see all of them. You'll be able to click on them. Some of them will just play. I'm sure some of them are still under the Fiveable paywall. They are putting a ton of resources out right now for free. But again, it is a company that has to break even to keep offering this content. So I do know that they are still having people sign up for Fiveable Plus memberships. My assumption is there's some that are free and some that are not. You'll just have to go check in. It's free to check, and then you can decide if it's worth it for the Fiveable Plus membership. Guys, it's a month away, so I highly encourage you. This is my personal opinion. I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. I think that you have a ton of free resources on College Board. You have all the essays. I think a Fiveable membership to see all of our replays and to see what's coming in the next couple weeks is a better use for your dollar than a test prep book. Now, I'm not saying don't get a test prep book, but I'm saying, hey, don't underestimate the value of what we're trying to do for you. And by the way, if you have any feedback on what I or others can do better, please let us know. We are here for you, and we want this to be something that's useful. So, Chris, just check it out, and you'll see what you can find. All right. You said that we should mix paraphrasing and citing, but you said earlier to use verbs such as highlighting. What do you mean by that? How could we avoid the trap of saying he says if we are supposed to paraphrase? Yeah, so really good point of clarifying. In your topic sentences especially, make sure you use verbs such as he highlights, he emphasizes, etc. In your, in your body paragraphs, here's a quick flow, and again, I've done a pretty deep dive of a body paragraph that's effective in a replay that I do want you all to check out if possible. But you're going to have your topic sentence that says something like highlighting. Then you're going to cite your evidence. And when you're citing your evidence, that's when you can paraphrase. So just do it 1 to 2 times per paragraph. So you would say something like this. He emphasizes the importance, this is my second one, he emphasizes the importance of pursuing space exploration even in the face of tragedy. For example, after Mourning Together with a Nation, he states, let me go back to my slide, the future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. So that'd be my quote. I can do that, and then I'm going to jump right back into audience analysis. So I guess that's a really good question. I'm super glad you asked it. Your topic sentences never say says or states. Even when you're paraphrasing, there's ways to change up your verbs so you don't say says or states. I'm going to talk a lot more next Monday about, hey, let's make sure we're not summarizing. I want to show you a lot more as we're walking through a second rhetorical analysis prompt. It's going to be a different one than this week. So people who are not here this week can still get everything out of it that I want them to. But yeah, it's a really good question. You can say he says, but it's a higher level writing choice to still dig into the thesaurus of your mind. He states, he says, I don't let my students say those. They can still paraphrase all they want. He emphasizes, he claims, he encourages. Just think of all the words that would better fit there, that are more precise there. All right, my last question that I see. So are literary elephants not necessary to gain any points? Thank you for staying here. Oh yeah, you're very welcome. So they are not necessary at all. In fact, as someone who's read 3 different years of rhetorical analysis prompts, so that's over 3,000 official College Board essays, usually the students who focus on literary elements score lower than if they would just say, hey, that's not the point. Let me do this. Let me talk about, in my words, what he does. And here's the point, why he does it. All of your body paragraphs should be why. So point out the what. Don't have to use the literary term at all. And then it's why. I hope you guys can check out my replay where I posted the live stream for a body paragraph, because that is something that I just don't have time for next Monday. But I'm just kind of assuming, hey, you know what a solid body paragraph looks like. I want to make sure you're focused on the right things. If you're focused on the right things, you can execute a body paragraph to the best of your ability. Thank you so much for the engagement tonight. I'm going to be logging off, and if you have any questions or anything you need clear for next Monday, I hope to see you back there. Please let me know. I honestly really enjoy answering your questions more than just going through my slides. So no need to apologize, everybody. You are very welcome. My name is Kevin Steinhauser. I'll be back next Monday. And then I'll be back the week before our AP exam for like last minute, hey, let's just make sure we're in the right headspace to take this test on May 20th. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of the night.